Hello everyone, let's begin with the webinar. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for being here today and mention that we are recording the session so that those who were not able to attend the webinar will be able to watch it in the future. My name is Borja Guillen. I am the account manager of the solutions department in Innova, and the objective of this session is to introduce our solutions belonging to our suite Intools, show also their functionality through a demo, and explain our website in online, stating why it is essential while setting up and managing our solution. Okay, for the agenda we're going to cover is the following. First, we will cover with a brief introduction of our company, as well as the applications. We will state the modalities in which these Intools can be used, and then we will perform a demo of each application. And finally, we will finish the session with a questions and doubts section. All right. So now let's provide a brief introduction of our company in case you don't know us. Innova is one of the few Microsoft IFB development centers worldwide, and it's the only one speaking Spanish. We provide services for both finance operations and business central, including our own solutions, which are supported by DCRPs. Our headquarters are established in Castellón, Spain, and our team is formed by more than 50 professionals with over 17 years of experience. As aforementioned, we offer our own solutions, which are divided into suites. One of them is a suite design, whose main feature is the digital signature. Within this suite, we may find eSign Facturae, available for both business central and finance operations. This solution is able to generate and sign digital invoices in an XML format, all right? On the other hand, we may find eSign ePDF, which is available for business central. This solution is able to digitally sign any PDF file. Nonetheless, these solutions will be deeply explained in another webinar, all right? So let me verify everything is correct. Okay, good. Let's continue. On the other hand, the suite Intools includes Intrasleep, Data Manager, and in-apps analyzer. In today's session, we want to introduce all these solutions. Hence, the structure to follow is an explanation of the solution, each solution, and right after we will proceed with a demo for each of them. Okay, so we can see them in a proper environment. So let's focus now on the explanation of the solution. As you may know, Intrasleep is able to easily create XLF files in any language available. It also provides a fluent maintenance and update of the translations and poses an automatized service of translations. On the other hand, Data Manager modifies or deletes system records. With this solution, the user will be able to make any modification, reversion of modification, or elimination, reversion of deletions of system records. You can do all these modifications in a controlled way. So it's important to mention that we have uploaded a specific localization of the solution for each country available in Business Central. Therefore, we must install the localization in which we want to perform the modifications, but also the generic version of Data Manager should be also installed in our system. In this case, this process is completed automatically, but we have to bear in mind that both the localization and the generic version of the tool should be installed in our system, okay? Finally, in-apps analyzer is a solution that allows you to analyze in detail the objects of the system extensions, and also it is possible to check which objects are used in each extension and which ones are free. You can also check the free gaps and if you have informed the ranges of your extensions. Furthermore, with the check ranges tool, you can check if a range enters or may conflict with objects or ranges or of other extensions within our system. Okay, it's also important to mention that this solution is completely free, and you can use all the functionality of in-apps analyzer for free. Okay, so now let's show you our website in online, which is crucial when setting up and managing our solutions. In the main visual interface of the site, you may find all the solutions provided by our company. If we go into each solution, for example, let's go into Intrasleep. The web page will display an introduction and a thorough tutorial of that solution. All right. Also, the user will be able to analyze the different plans available. And I find also important to mention that all our solutions can be downloaded at Microsoft Marketplace App Stores, and only by registering our site, you will be able to utilize them. Okay. So now we're going to log in with a real account for you to check what can you expect when registering our site. All right, give me a second. And here, that's the customer ID. It is essential since afterwards we will have to introduce it in the setup wizard, but also in this main interface, in this main visual interface, we can also check which solutions we have available in our user. And again, if we go into each solution, let's go again into Intrasleep. We can find, let me switch the language. We can find the higher plan and the recommended plan according to the usage we are doing of that solution, all right? And also an information section regarding the lines, but this information is gathered quarterly, okay? But we can also check the lines in this month and the estimated lines this month, all right? So now, without further ado, let's proceed with the demo of the solutions. But first, let me drink some water. All right, so as an introduction, we're going to start with Intrasleep. In previous versions of Navision, we had to use CaptionML to do the translations in different languages. In this updated version, in Business Central, the translations are done using a Xlib file. Therefore, through a Xlib file generated by the system, if we wanted to do a translation in different systems, in different languages, we should create these files each time with a different language. Our solution is able to do exactly this, but in a simpler way. Through the same original file, we will be able to generate the translated ones. So once we have downloaded our solution from App Stores and we have completed the register process in our site, the user will have its customer ID, which is going to be necessary when setting up the solution. Thus, the first thing to work on is the configuration of the application. Okay, we have to go into the setup. In this configuration menu, we will need to introduce the customer ID, like that. And once we have done that, we will need to set up the languages. All right, let's go back. Setup and languages. Okay, so in this visual interface, the user is able to check the languages that are already set up in the solution. We will need to introduce the ISO code accordingly to the language we want to utilize. Okay, as you can see in this interface. Once this configuration is completed, we can start to do the translations. But give me a second. Okay, I'm just going to remove these lines. Okay, where are you? Okay, I think it's better if I do like this. Edit. Okay, I just want to remove these lines very quickly. Okay, like here. I'm going to look at this. All right, we should be good to go. Give me 1 second. Okay, yeah, we're good to go. So how does this work? When we own a solution, a XLF file is produced, which is composed by several nodes. These nodes are referencing all the caption, tooltips, or labels of the solution. Therefore, through these captions, tooltips, and labels, a XLF file is created. If we want to do the translation of this, theoretically, we should copy this file, generate a new one, and modify its target, adding a new node to do this translation. Our solution can do all this process automatically. So the first step is to get into the translations, and several actions will be displayed. Among these actions, update captions, translate captions, load translation file, and create translation file should be highlighted since they are quite important, and we are going to use them in a while. So let's imagine that we want to generate a translation file for one of our solutions. We don't have a translation done yet, hence we are going to use the update captions action. This tool is going to ask for the language in which we want to do the translation. For example, I'm going to choose Spanish. Are you here? And now it's going to ask for the base translation file, the one that the system is going to automatically generate, and okay, should be here. Okay, and once it's imported, it would create some lines in which we can start to function. So the information to be found in this section is the nodes, language, caption, and also the translate captions tool. In this latter part, we will add the translations from which the translation file will be generated. To make a demonstration, I'm just going to fill in the translation in these gaps. For example, real quick, Spanish. Okay, so we are ready now to create the translation file. So the action, create translation file. The system will inform us that the file is going to be created, and we will have to introduce the language code, like in Spanish. And after that, we will have to import the base translation file, since from this one, the additional translation files will be generated. Okay, good. Once the file is created, the system will suggest a name according to the solution and its language. Okay, I'm going to save it. And if I save it, we can check in our application that a new translation file with a different target has been added. This new file includes the original target and the new translated one, which is what we needed in order to generate our translation. Okay, as you can see. Okay, let me remove these lines to show you another example. So another functionality we can use is, say we already have a solution with this translation, as for example this case, but we want to do some modifications. Instead of doing them manually here, we can load the translation file. Okay. When loading it, the system is claiming that if we have any data, it will be erased. And once again, we have to introduce the language code. But this time we have to import the translation file, okay? Since we want to do some modification on it. Okay, here. So now the file is already loaded, and if we want to do some modifications, for example, something visual like this, and now it is necessary to generate a new translation file, create translation file, indicating the language, and this time we will need to introduce the base translation file. Okay, let's do it. Okay, I'm just going to overwrite it now. Yeah, okay. And if I go back to my application, I can see that the changes have been done. Okay. Oh, let's remove these lines again. So another modality available is, for example, if we want to select a different language of the aforementioned. The process to follow would be quite similar. I mean, we don't have the translation done for any other language. What we want to use is a completely new language. Therefore, we can use the Update Captions tool. We will have to select the new language. In this case, I'm going to choose Italian. And again, I will have to import the base translation file. Okay. Once this is done, the system will create new lines for the Italian version, but it is necessary that we fulfill these translations. Previously, I was able to do it manually because I knew Spanish, but I don't know any Italian. So through the Actions menu, we may find a functionality that can translate them automatically. Okay, now it is necessary to introduce again the language and the solution name. Just like this, okay? Now, those lines that were untranslated are now translated accordingly to this automatic translating system. So the translation have already been done, and now we can generate the translation file in Italian. Okay, the language again. And now, the base translation file, since from this one, all the different translation files will be generated. Okay, I'm going to save it. And I'm going to check the file in our application. And now we can check that the new lines have been added in Italian. For example, the source language, which was my table, and the target, which is la mia tavola, which is what we needed in order to create the XLF file. Okay. So let me go back. In the role center, interface, a detailed information about the usage is displayed. For example, the lines we have in our solution, whether they are translated or not, and also the solutions in which these lines are introduced. For example, I can check into solutions, and if I go into the solution name, I can check that there are 5 lines that are translated. For example, these are the lines. Okay, besides, in input translations, we'll be able to select specific lines that should not be translated, check some developers kind of comments, and also specify the characters to utilize in a translation. This section, the external translation, is a functionality that we haven't explained yet. This functionality will allow us to send these lines into our portal. So a third party, say a local partner or a translator, will be able to check these lines or perform the translation of these lines if we haven't done that yet. And then we will receive again these lines translated or corrected, and then we will be able to create the new translation file. Okay, that's the external translation functionality. Let's jump now into in Data Manager. Okay, that was all regarding in Translate. Okay, I'm going to change the role. Where are you here? The date, the days. And well, regarding in Data Manager, as aforementioned, this solution allows the user to do exactly the same as Object Designer used to do. If we need to change any information in a table, since it was not possible to do that from our system, we had to use the Object Designer and create a new process to do this work for us. For this scenario, we have created a new solution that, in a simpler way, it allows the user to do these modifications or deletions of records. We say that it is mainly aimed to Business Central developers, since if there's any modification or deletion to do of any system record, we must know exactly what we have to do. Okay. So likewise, in Translate, we will need a customer ID, which can be obtained through our portal in online, in order to properly utilize this solution. But this time, for security reasons, this ID must be introduced in every modification or deletion we do. So in the role center, we will find the changes templates and the deletions templates. In this case, we're going to start with the changes templates. And the four first templates we have are predetermined by our solution to the modification of, for instance, a sales invoice. For this demo, we have created an additional template to modify, for example, the information of a customer. But again, you can create as many templates as you want. So in order to get into it, we'll go to into this table settings. In this interface, we can configure the tables, filters, and fields we want to modify. In this case, I want to modify the customer number 10,000, and I want to modify the number or the name of the customer. Okay. So now we're ready to go. We're ready to go into the changes matrix, and we have to load data to modify. So now displayed, we can see the data we have filtered to be modified, and we can do some modifications like this, for example. And now we can save this modification into the system. But in order to confirm this modification, we will need to introduce the customer ID. Okay? Let's do that. And now I'm going to check whether the customer has been modified. I think it's customers. To the customers. Okay. And as you can see, the customer number 10,000 has been modified into Adatum Corporation test. But if you want to reverse that modification, maybe because it has been a mistake or I don't know, there's something wrong with it, we can go into the changes executed. We have to go into the last one, and there's an action that will allow us to revert the changes. Again, it will ask for the customer ID as a confirmation, and if we go now into our list, the customer number 10,000 should be back to its original name. Okay, as you can see, the customer number 10,000 is again Adatum Corporation. Okay, so for the deletions templates, we are going to use the same template we have used for the modification, but this time we want to delete a customer instead of modifying any information from it. In this case, we only have to input the table we want to delete and the filters. Again, I'm going to choose the client number 10,000. But if it's important that we filter the number of the client, because if we don't do that, the system will display a list of all our customers. Okay, that's why we have to be very, very careful within Data Manager. So now I'm going to go into the deletions matrix. I'm going to load data to delete, and I can check that that's the information that I have filtered, the customer number 10,000. I can verify this customer. Okay, I want to delete it, and I proceed with it. Okay. Again, customer ID as a confirmation. And if I go into my list, it shouldn't be there. And it is not. The client number 10,000 is not there anymore. But now we are going to revert that deletion. Okay. To do so, we have to go into the deletions executed, select the last one on the list, since again that's the most updated deletion, and revert deletion. Let's confirm with the customer ID. And now let's check if the customer is back into our list. Okay, and there we go. The customer number 10,000, Adatum Corporation, is back to our list. So that would be it regarding Data Manager. As you can see, it's a very helpful and useful tool, but also it is very powerful because we have to know exactly what we are doing. All right. So now let's jump into the last demo of the session, which is in Analyzer. I'm going to change the role. and I'm going to drink water again. All right, so once the profile for in-apps analyzer is established, it will show some kind of details. In this case, the amount of extensions, ranges, and objects we have in our system. Also, an important function is that in this interface, we can check the amount of objects that are being used in the range 50,000. All right. Besides, in this work area, we can get into the setup menu, which shows the necessary configurations for the solution, and also again the customer ID, which is going to be needed in the future. Okay, we have to complete this setup. All right. So the first thing we are going to cover is the extensions section. In this field, the system is going to show all the extensions that we have already set. In this case, the base application and the system applications are predetermined in a solution by Microsoft. Okay, but we can also see the names of each extension, version, the publisher, and a check indicating whether this extension is installed in our system or not. Okay, so one of the functionalities, let me go into Analyzer, is the action set ranges, which is going to be explained in detail in a minute. And through Navigate, through related in this case, we can have access to the dependencies used in each extension. As you can see, this extension is using the dependency of system and base application, which are again predetermined by Microsoft, and one name in Innova line, which is a solution that we have internally to create a connectivity with our website. Okay. So another tool is to check a list of all the objects included in each extension, and then we can see the fields such as type, object, and object subtype, the ID, the name, the caption, and also the extension name. All right. So another method to check the objects in detail is the one, of course, called show objects detail. In this case, we can observe all the objects we have, but divided in type of objects. All right. In these columns, we can check the objects that are already being used and the gaps we have free. It is really useful to know the gaps we have free in case we need to develop or use any object. It's interesting to know if we have any gap free to use it. The field free objects deals with the ranges, which are going to be explained in a minute. Okay, so in order to show you the functionality of the free gaps, I'm going to get into an extension that I know it has free gaps. For example, it's Intrasleep, and I'm going to show objects detail. So in this case, you can see that, for example, the object type table has 6 used objects, but there's one free slot. If I get into it, I can see that the table which is available is the one ending in 29. So if I had to create a new table, I know that this object is free and I can operate on it. All right. So let's check now the tool set ranges. Okay, let's take as an example in-apps analyzer. So in this case, we have already established the ranges of the solution, which goes from this number to this number. If we go now into show objects detail, we can observe that the objects that are currently free. It is useful to know this information because if we take now the type of object page, we can see that 12 objects are being used, but there are 988 that are free. If we go into these objects, the system is going to show from lowest to highest all the objects that we can utilize, which is also very useful when introducing new objects. Okay, So this is it regarding the information about extensions. But if our idea right now is to start a new solution, one of the hardest things to decide, one of the hardest is to decide on, is the range of objects to use, and especially which objects can I use in range 50,000. Since Object Designer is not available anymore, we can be informed about the objects that are being used. Logically, we are willing to use this range 50,000 to develop our new extension, but most likely it is going to be in use. For this scenario, we have created the check ranges tool, which is right here. We just have to input the initial and final range. For example, I'm going to select this range. I'm going to cover all the 50,000. And the system says that there are 12 objects in this range. I can get into these objects and check which objects are in range, in conflict, okay? The object type, the object subtype, the ID, the name, the caption, and also the extension name. I can check the extensions in this range, which is the one called Captio Connect. And finally, we can see that there are no extension ranges in conflict. Okay, this is because this is a test environment, but probably if you use it in a production environment, it will show some further details. Okay. So this is it regarding the demo of our solutions in Apps Analyzer, in Data Manager, and in Intrasleep. Let me remind you that especially in Apps Analyzer, its use is completely free. You can download the solution in App Stores, and you can start utilizing it. And now we're going to finish this section with the questions and doubts section. You can use the questions section or the chat from GoToWebinar. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to remind you that all our solutions are available in the Microsoft Marketplace App Stores, and all of them have a free trial for you to check. Okay, so you just have to download the solutions, install it in your environment, and you just have to complete the registration process, which is completely free in our website and online, and then you will be able to check them. So now I'm going to wait a couple of minutes for you to send me your questions. Okay, there's a question here. They say if the solutions are also available in Business Central on-premises. Yes, that's correct. I forgot to mention it earlier. All the solutions in Intrasleep, in Apps Analyzer, and in Data Manager are available both on a Business Central cloud environment and also for a Business Central on-premises environment. Whereas in cloud, you can download straight from App Stores. If you need the solution in a Business Central on-premises environment, you will have to contact us so we can deliver the package in this case. Okay. So I hope that answers your question. I'm going to wait one more minute. Okay, so there are no more questions, so we are going to finish the session. Please remember that if you have any other question, you can send them to my email, which is bguillen@innovaconsulting.s, and we can answer these questions through email. So I'm going to finish the session. I hope you found the solutions interesting. Thank you very much for being here, and see you in our next session.